step away from the vehicle, and drop the bag now. The Apache pilot barked over comms rotors, thundering above her. She didn't flinch, just slowly raised the canvas duffel over her head. One patch, two colors, and a symbol no one dared mistake. Inside the cockpit, both gunners froze. Because the woman below wasn't the target. She was carrying the battle flag of a unit that had gone missing 5 years ago. If legacy still means something to you, type carried with honor below. The desert outside Fallon Naval Air Station stretched endless and unforgiving. A wasteland of dust and memory forgotten by all except those who trained to die there. Out of 700, a lone figure cut across the scrub land, boots crunching against sun-bleached gravel, dragging a heavy duff wrapped in weathered canvas. Each step deliberate, each breath measured. No one else was near. No vehicles in sight, no communication devices on her person. Just a woman in her 30s, sunshed cap pulled low over eyes that had seen too much expression. Calm, but hardened by purpose. Her name was Jessa Whitlow. No rank badge adorned her shoulders. No unit patch marked her allegiance. Just boots and resolve, the only currency that mattered out here. She had walked over 11 miles off-grid since dawn, tracing old evacuation paths no longer marked on base maps, following a ghost route that existed only in classified briefings and the memories of those who'd been trained to disappear. Inside her bag was something sacred, a weight no one had carried in 5 years, a burden she'd crossed 3 continents to return. 20 minutes earlier, a routine patrol had misidentified her on thermal drone feed as a suspicious actor approaching restricted airspace. The alert triggered immediate response protocols. 2 AH-64 Apache gunships were scrambled from the outer perimeter weapon systems, primed for interception. From above, she was just a lone figure walking with determined stride in a restricted zone, carrying a bag that looked heavy and possibly dangerous. No credentials, no clearance, no reason to be there. As the helicopters drew close, Jessica kept walking. She didn't look up, she didn't wave, didn't reach for identification. The Apaches flanked her on both sides, rotors shaking the dry earth around her boots, kicking up dust devils that swirled around her like ghosts from the past. The downdraft nearly knocked her sideways, but she adjusted her stance and kept moving. Over the comms came the sharp order, step away from the vehicle and drop the bag now. She stopped, not out of fear, not out of compliance, but because she had finally reached the exact coordinates she'd been walking toward all morning, reached slowly into the side pocket of the duffel, fingers finding the cloth by memory, pulled out a faded bundle, unfolded it with practiced reverence above her head. The wind caught it immediately, snapping it open like a salute. Not every battlefield is made of bullets and blood. Some are made of silence, memory, and things you never thought you'd carry again. The heaviest burdens often weigh nothing on a scale, but everything on a soul. Through the gunship's high-resolution camera feed, the flag came into perfect focus. Tattered edges, frayed by wind and war. Faded colors that had once been vibrant in the desert sun. The distinctive insignia of Ghost River Unit Echo 9, a specialized reconnaissance division presumed killed in action during classified operations in northern Syria 5 years ago. The flag was never recovered. The bodies never found. The unit's last transmission ended mid-sentence, cut off by static, and then absolute silence. The official report closed the case after 9 months of searching. The families received folded flags for empty caskets. But now here it was held in 2 bare hands raised toward 2 Apaches with enough firepower to turn the ground beneath her into glass. In the lead cockpit, the pilot and gunner both recognized the patch instantly. Not because of the mission file, but because one of the fallen had been their former commanding officer, a mentor, a friend. "Stand down," the lead pilot muttered, voice suddenly thick. "Sir." The weapons officer's finger hovered over the target lock. "That flag doesn't move unless we move with it. Get HQ on the line now." Down below, Jessa didn't blink, didn't lower her arms. She stood as if time had stopped, the flag rippling above her like a defiant heartbeat against the empty sky. Wind shredded through her thin jacket. Dust stung her eyes, but her arms stayed locked, flag held high, refusing to surrender to fatigue or doubt. Minutes passed. The helicopters hovered, weapons still trained, waiting for orders from base command. Confirm visual ID, what's her name? Credentials. The pilot radioed back. No ID, no comms equipment visible, just a woman walking with Echo 9's colors. Silence stretched on the other end. Then finally escort her in. Eyes on her every step. Do not engage. That flag comes home in one piece. So the Apaches pivoted. Not to surround her, not to threaten, but to follow. 2 weirards in solemn formation behind one silent walker. As she folded the flag with practiced precision and returned it to the duffel, the lead Apache dipped its nose slightly, the closest thing to a salute its metal frame could manage. Jessa nodded once in acknowledgement, shouldered her burden, and resumed walking. This time toward the base. This time with guardians at her back. The moment Jessa crossed the inner gate, people started staring. Some froze mid-stride. Others removed their caps without thinking, an instinctive gesture of respect for something they couldn't name, but somehow recognized. No one knew her face, but something in her bearing, in the way she carried, that duffel made seasoned warriors step aside. She didn't stop at the checkpoint. Just handed the guard a sealed envelope, weathered and stained with what might have been blood. Inside precise coordinates, a single name, a set of dog tags that had traveled too far to be questioned now. She walked straight to the base chapel, locked for years since budget cuts had eliminated the chaplain position. Yet somehow the door swung open at her approach. Inside, she placed a flag on the center bench beneath the stained glass window, then sat beside it, one hand resting protectively on the canvas. The base commander, Colonel Anders, entered 7 minutes later. He didn't ask who she was or demand identification. He simply sat across from her, eyes fixed on the duffel. Echo 9, his voice barely above a whisper. She nodded once. You were with them? A question loaded with implication. No, she said, voice steady. I was after them. She explained how she had served in the intelligence wing, tasked with finding what happened to Ghost River Unit. When official search operations ceased, when orders stopped coming, she went unofficial. Off-grid, no backup, no extraction plan. For 5 years, she hunted fragments of information across 3 war zones. She followed whispers through back channels. She traded water for rumors in dry villages where American forces were myths. And finally, 6 months ago, she found what was left of Echo 9 buried beneath limestone and shale unmarked, folded with military precision. Among them, a sealed steel lockbox with a unit flag and a handwritten letter from the commanding officer. If this ever reaches home, it read, tell them we held. We didn't run. We waited for extraction until the very end. She had waited too for the right moment, the right approach, the right respect until today. Colonel understood and called for full ceremonial protocol through channels that hadn't been used in years. We bring them home tonight. All of them. His eyes met hers, an unspoken question hanging between them. 8 bodies, she said quietly. 2 sets of tags missing. I have the coordinates. The colonel nodded, once the weight of command settling back on shoulders that had carried too many losses. The missing tag. Jessa reached into her pocket and placed them on the bench between them. They were with a child in a village 3 kilometers from the site. Said an American gave them to her mother before disappearing into the mountains. The colonel closed his eyes briefly. You did what our entire intelligence apparatus couldn't. No, she corrected softly. I just refused to stop looking. That evening, just before sunset, a black draped honor table was set at the base memorial. No names were read aloud, no speeches were given, no photographers allowed. Just the flag meticulously folded and placed in a glass case crafted by the base carpenter overnight. A simple brass plaque beneath it. Ghost River Echo 9 status home. Jessa stood at the rear of the gathering crowd. No uniform, no formal salute. An outsider who had earned the right to be there through miles no one else had walked. But when the bugle played the first haunting notes of taps, the entire flight line stood at attention, including the 2 Apache pilots who had nearly fired on her that morning. As the final note faded into desert stillness, one of them approached her. You were the one who found them. Not a question. I didn't find them, she said softly. I finished what they started. The pilot nodded once, then added quietly, we'll escort you wherever you go next. Just say the word. Jessa smiled for the first time since crossing onto base grounds. You already did. As the sun dropped behind the western hills, the flag glowed gold under the case lights. One of the oldest flight instructors whispered to his colleague. She didn't bring them back with noise and medals. She brought them back with silence and footsteps. From that day forward, no one ever questioned the patch she began wearing on her left shoulder because the color she carried didn't belong to her alone. They belonged to every name, never called it roll, every salute, never given, every letter marked. Returned to sender until now. Colonel Anders approached her as the crowd dispersed. There's a position open. Intelligence Analysis Off-Books Operations. I don't work well with teams anymore, she replied. Neither did Echo 9, he countered. That's why they were the best. She glanced back at the glass case, at the flag that had traveled so far to find its way home. When do I start? The colonel handed her a folder. You already did. 5 years ago. Some missions never get closure until someone brings the flag home. If you believe silence can be sacred, type returned with honor below. 3 months later, Jessa stood at the edge of a different desert. Different sun, different wind, same ghost. The coordinates had led her to this unmarked stretch of Syrian borderland where satellite imagery showed nothing but empty terrain, and thermal scans detected no signs of life. But Echo 9 hadn't survived by being visible. She knelt, running fingers through the coarse sand, feeling for the markers only someone trained in their protocols would recognize. Their small arrangement of stones positioned exactly 15 degrees off magnetic north. The sign. With practice movements, she brushed away layers of sand until her fingers found metal, a hatch disguised as bedrock untouched for years. The combination was the date Echo 9 had officially been declared lost. The dead protecting the living with their sacrifice. The hatch opened with a soft hiss of preserved air. Inside a small underground bunker, emergency supplies, communication equipment long dead. And on the wall, a map marked with locations that didn't exist in any official database. Whispers had reached intelligence channels 6 weeks ago. Rumors of an American operative moving through mountain villages at night, leaving no trace except small caches of medicine for children. Villagers called him the ghost who walks. Too specific to be coincidence, too methodical to be a civilian. Dog tags that hadn't been recovered with the others. Colonel Anders had given her one mission. Find out if one of them survived. Bring them home or confirm they want to stay gone. Some ghosts deserved to rest. Others needed to be found. A notebook sat on the small metal desk. Inside entries dated just 18 months ago, long after Echo 9 was declared lost. The handwriting matched the letter found with the flag. The commanding officer hadn't died with his team. The final entry read, if you're reading this, you followed the markers. Only someone who cared would have looked this hard. The mission changed, but the oath didn't. Some wars can only be fought from shadows. Some truths only protected by those officially dead. I'm still waiting, just not for extraction. Beneath it, new coordinates, a meeting place, a time, and a single line that made her breath catch. The flag made it home, didn't it? Jessa closed the notebook and secured it in her pack. Some soldiers came home in ceremony and honor. Others came home in whispers and secrets. She activated the tracker hidden in her boot, the only signal Colonel Anders would need to know she'd found something worth pursuing. As she emerged from the bunker and carefully concealed its entrance once more, she looked toward the distant mountains where a ghost might be waiting. Yes, she whispered to the empty air. It made a home. The mission had just begun. If you believe some soldiers fight best from beyond the grave of their official records type, ghosts still serve below. Subscribe to the Ordinary Heroes for moments when legacy walks quietly and even helicopters hold there.